Hello and welcome to Tools in the Shed, a podcast powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that's caught our eye this week. I'm James, and with me is Crafty, who's been patrolling, some might say lurking, around the campgrounds of Australia.
Oh, yes.
And Chesto, who's been logging the new car winners and losers.
Morning, podcasters.
And we'll update you on the guy who says he's not an alien, but used to be one, in this week's MuskWatch. So stay with us.
Speaking of lurkers.
But first of all, feedback. Carl P came out of the blocks pretty quickly after we posted the podcast last week on YouTube and said, I literally have nothing to say. That was his comment.
Nothing to say but too much time.
So Carl P, I wondered if it was Carl Pilkington, who's actually a friend of Ricky Gervais and what have you.
And he's a funny guy.
Yeah, but we picked up a like, so that's fine.
Yeah. Good on you, Carl.
Wax 333, who we were calling 33, Wax 333, says love the mockery guys, which is great. He owns a 2018 D-Max and fancies utes. If Kia does a ute and puts the V6 twin turbo petrol in it, he's there. He also agrees the Peugeot 508 wagon looks good and hopefully get the more powerful model in New Zealand as well. So Wax 333 is a Kiwi, which automatically makes him a great bloke.
Indeed.
So thank you, Wax 333. Now, Hammer Rocks, good old Hammer.
Hammer.
He's jumped in.
The hamwage.
He's just read that the
Strange.
C8 Corvette will come with a factory-fitted dash cam. We were looking at dash cams last week.
Talking about last
Says,
week.
look, just a matter of time before they become standard or an option from the factory. It just makes sense. I just hope they don't go as far as fitting black boxes.
Yes.
is what he says. So that sort of crosses some threshold from helpful in a court of law to observation and we're tracking you
Tracking,
kind of stuff.
But
intrusive.
There's a benefit there with a car like the Corvette too, because it's going to be so wild, that car, that there will be lots and lots of footage of
cars and coffee crashes
approaching it.
It could take the cars and coffee mantle from the Mustang.
Yeah. That's right.
We're going to peel out of here.
Boom! Whoopsie daisy.
Contact the parts department.
Yeah, and plus on the positive side, you can go down that rabbit hole on YouTube with the dash cam footage.
Oh,
I mean, how cool!
I mean, it's
it's
frightening.
It is.
frightening.
Oh, yeah.
You find yourself trying to extend your peripheral vision beyond the edges of the screen because what's going to come out of nowhere at me?
Yeah, that's right.
That's true. Now,
Good
David
stuff.
Campbell simply says, "Love your work."
Is that
David.
Jimmy Barnes' son?
He is a
Look,
David
it
Campbell.
could just be a great mate of mine who I've known forever.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
So, so thanks, Dave.
I didn't know you knew Jimmy Barnes.
Good on you, David. Nice one.
No,
mate.
he's a school chum actually before school.
Oh, cool. We won't
now-
hold that against him. Good on you, David.
Now we've had Twigda, beg your pardon.
Sorry.
Can you guys review the base model Tesla Model 3? To which, Gary 56 says, I second that request. Now that the Model 3 seems to finally be here, and please include the long-range Model 3, which might be more suitable for people needing a car to do long country trips. Well, we've
Real
responded
trips.
saying, stay tuned. And actually, stay tuned because very shortly you will have that in spades. So
It's in the pipeline.
It's a
More
short
than in the
pipeline.
pipeline,
Short
yeah.
pipeline too.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
stand by. So thank you very much for all of that feedback. Now, Crafty, you've been in the shadows. You've been
Lurking.
watching people from the periphery of the various campgrounds.
Yeah.
And what have you observed?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
just give us the clean version of what you've observed.
That sounds horrifying.
yeah.
I'm not.
To be honest.
It's horrifying and yet, a bit enjoyable.
Intriguing.
I admittedly, I haven't done a lot of camping over winter because I hate it, and so do my kids and my dogs and my wife, my lovely wife. But through the years, I have noticed, and even as recently as just before winter, there is a lot of rubbish.
Yes.
In national parks, not so much in private campsites. You're going to ucamp.com and that sort of thing.
Right.
Because I think those people, it's a business model that you have to keep sort of, clear of all rubbish. But national parks, the poor buggers, like rangers, are running around sort of policing things, making sure people are doing the right things, but they've also got to get all of this horrendous rubbish that people
And
leave.
just to put some context on this, for people that haven't, come across the great Crafty, he is, of course, our adventure editor, so all things off the highway, holidays, four-wheel driving, that kind of stuff. So
Our Lord of the Lurkers.
correct.
Yeah.
So that's why the campground is falling inside his bailiwick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing is, it's not just sort of the more populated areas. You'll go a little bit outside of Sydney and you'll go to Green Patch and those sort of places, those sort of campsites. Very popular. it's not just those. I mean, you go remote area travelling. I've done Simpson a bunch of times, and the amount of rubbish you find is ridiculous.
It's
And I'm talking about
unbelievable.
horrendous stuff. Like, take it with you, like used nappies, used toilet paper.
Wow.
I mean, cans,
Yeah.
jagged cans that can rip a kid's feet up if they go for a run out from the campsite in the desert. All those sorts of things. And a year or two ago, I was on my way to Cape York, and you're finding crap like UDL cans and those sort of things. And I mean, people, it's not so hard, JC, just to take the stuff with you.
Yeah.
I mean, make a plan and take it all out with you, and then everyone else gets the pleasure of using that site for the rest of our days.
I don't know. I don't want to sound too holier than thou, but you do struggle to really comprehend what someone's thinking when they just here's the can and just sort of chuck it over their shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't mind sounding holier than thou, so I will say this: if you're not taking your rubbish with you, you are a terrible person.
Right.
There's just no if, buts, or maybes about it. But I don't know what's more offensive about that: leaving cans or drinking UDLs. Where does that play out?
Well, that offended me. I mean, take your own mix for God's sakes.
Exactly.
How lazy
You're
is
not
that?
blending your own rocket fuel. You're not welcome.
But and I mean, it's a big problem. And now the question is how access is going to be affected.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are issues that are ongoing.
Yes.
And I mean, they are serious because rangers have a massive job as it is.
Yes.
And now, you're looking at that sort of, those sort of problems.
Yeah.
And you just can't sustain access to the degree that it is at the moment.
If it continues, I'd imagine that aside from just leaving a terribly unpleasant environment for other people to come into and camp, that there'd be environmental impacts, where certain things are just not good for plants or animals or whatever. There's that as well, right?
Absolutely. Well, you can imagine if there's a plastic bag full of used nappies and whatever else, and you got any sort of native wildlife.
Oh God,
you know what I mean. So
God,
now the more serious issue is as you mentioned, how it impacts the environment, how it impacts the wildlife. So not just access. I mean, the access is me being selfish because I want to go there for years to come.
Of course.
But absolutely, you are spot on. It is a danger to animals and and the environment. So sort yourselves out if you're not taking your rubbish with you.
Yeah, and I suppose it's always a tricky one, isn't it? Whenever you kind of see, if you see that behaviour, as soon as you just put your hand up and there's a chance you're going to have your head bitten off.
Oh, absolutely,
and it becomes an awkward confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I suppose all we can say is everyone that is watching or listening to this should just do their utmost to respect the environment that they're camping in.
It should be self-policed. I mean, you don't find that in Europe. If you're in Switzerland or somewhere, you go to campsites, they are absolutely pristine. People couldn't live with themselves if they left trash behind in a national park.
Exactly.
But it falls into the Australian category of this is why we can't
She'll
have
be
nice
right.
things.
Someone else will tidy it up. Yeah, Crafty's probably lurking in the bushes with a plastic bag. So.
Maybe they're making a hasty retreat because they've seen the bushes rustling.
Have you ever seen Crafty lurking in Switzerland? He's exceptionally neat. He's got some chocolate with him,
right,
and he's on time.
I'm
He's got
absolutely
the
on
good
time.
timepiece.
Absolutely.
All right,
absolutely on time. There you go. Rant over.
You
rant
are
over.
an international lurker.
I
Customs. It's often a struggle for you.
That's what he puts down on the occupation.
Lurking. Terrific.
Gymnast.
So I think that's a really strong message to send out there, and
Hugely
hopefully
valuable.
our listeners and viewers are already that way inclined. But we can
I'd like to think so.
We'll do
I'd
our
like to
best.
think
That's the problem. This will fall on deaf ears with our listeners because they are all the kind of good people that take their rubbish with them.
Damn
But
right
if you know
you are.
people who don't, please let them know.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of rubbish, Chester.
Yes.
Oh, jeez, hello.
Sorry, mate, No, it wasn't directed at you. Just some car brands are a bit rubbish in the market at the moment.
Yes, they are. So VFAX came out earlier this week. It's the self-reported monthly take of sales in Australia. So I'll give you a very quick overview first, and we'll drill down on a couple of the ones who really stood out to me. So basically, this last month we sold 83,000 odd cars. That's down 2.8% on the same month last year. So basically, we're still falling, but we're not falling as quickly as we have been in the past.
Righto.
So it's kind of weirdly the new car market seems to be kind of mirroring the house market in the sense that it's still coming down, still coming off, but the coming off seems to be slowing down.
Yeah,
so it should be heading for
it's
a
little bit
bottom.
quiet.
Yep.
So a couple of standout performers first and foremost. First of which is Volvo, who you point out, JC, on fire so far this year. They did 563 units last month. Again, that's not a massive amount, but it is a massive amount for them. Up 6.4% compared to the month last year, and 23.4% so far this year.
Which is on the back of a 2018 where they had a consistent upward trend.
spike.
They did not have a negative month. They were just winning all the way through the
Correct.
year.
And fed by good product there, you'd have to say XC40, XC60, no surprises, are doing the bulk of the
and a senior management refresh that has poured a real focus onto getting things moving.
Absolutely. Other one I'm just going to quickly shout out is Kia, who just seem to be going from strength to strength to strength. 4,506 units last month. That's up 2.3% both for the year and for the month compared to last year.
So they're bucking the trend.
But they have been double green now for some time, Kia. They're heading
well,
in the right
they'd
direction.
score another sale if Wax 333 ends up picking his twin
right.
turbo
when he gets
Kia Ute when he gets that. Yep.
I think there's a couple of us that might grab one of those.
One of those?
I mean,
great.
they have said before that the Ute is what will be able to sort of lift them to the next level. So their senior management's on record saying that as soon as that thing comes, we're going to be jumping a spot.
Well, think about Toyota and Hilux. What a proportion of their sales.
And can you imagine them making an ordinary Ute? I don't think so.
No.
Like they've
Or Ford and Ranger, actually. I think Ranger makes up such a staggering percentage of Ford sales. So speaking of which, let's go to them first and foremost then. So in the Ford Ranger v Hilux battle so far this year, this was reported by our man Tung on the site this month. So the Ford Ranger has stolen the 4x4 crown so far this month.
That's interesting.
Now, they have literally edged ahead in year-to-date sales. They've done 75 more than Toyota.
Wow. That's a tight tussle.
And 2,850 new regos in July compared to the Hilux's 2,517. So the Ranger is just ahead.
Because it's Toyota's 4x2 sales that picks Hilux up and gets it ahead of Ranger.
Correct. So then what else can we talk about quickly? Ram. So Ram is a really fascinating study, Ram. So they basically filled a hole in the market that hadn't been filled by anyone before.
Yeah. No one.
A kind of suck it and see business to see how well it would go. Fair to say it's going very well. So Ram to date this year, 1,378 trucks in Australia. Now critically, everyone thought it was the really big trucks, the 2,500 and 3,500 for both Ram and Chev that would do the business. Not at all. So it's the Ram 1,500 that's done 1,200 of their 1,378 sales.
And the
bulk.
fact that it's one of two models, as in the newer one is available in the States. We're getting the one that was pre-existing.
Yeah, correct.
Hasn't proved an impediment at all. People are loving it.
And in fact, we'll sell both in the end. So it'll give Ram a cheaper, like they're doing in the States basically,
an entry point.
A cheaper entry point, or you can step up to the deluxe one.
Yep.
Finally, I could talk about Chinese brands. They are doing very well in Australia still, but of course from a small base. But the one that I think we're all a bit curious about is probably Genesis, who just launched.
Yep.
So G70, not massive sales. They shifted 15 cars in July. Now, and a few.
I've
of
got
those
to take one sock off to count those.
Correct.
Okay?
A few of those would be dealer registrations, you would have thought as well. Anyway, 15 total. Now, to put that into perspective, the Mercedes-Benz C-Class did 578. The BMW 3 Series did 253. So they're a fair way off the pace there, but they're starting. I guess the one that's closest is the Alfa Romeo Giulia, which did 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Lexus's entrants are doing about 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not a million miles off the pace of that sort of second-tier level. And the A4 did about 40, I think.
Okay,
yes. And Chesto, you undertook an investigation into Audi because we'd noticed that Audi so far this year had been suffering, and you got their perspective on the whole thing.
Correct. Okay, so let's try and put Audi into some perspective for a second. So the premium end of the market is actually on the way back up.
All right.
So it had been hammered recently, but led by Mercedes and to a lesser extent BMW, they're sort of coming back. So BMW, for example, came up 4.5% for the month to 1,758 registrations in July, leaving their year-to-date tally down about 3.1%.
Okay,
so slightly
they're
down,
getting close to parity.
Getting closer, but month on month they're heading in the right direction. Mercedes crushed it. Their sales shot up 25.7% in July to 2,792 sales, but their year-to-date tally is still down 9%. So they're on the
But they're getting
climb,
back
right?
there.
Back on the rise.
Correct.
Wow.
Now let's contrast that with Audi. They did 858 sales in July versus 1,352 in the same month last year, meaning they're down 38.5% month on month. Year-to-date numbers are no prettier. They've done 8,056 sales so far this year, down 32.7% to this point in 2018. So
they're a third down.
Yeah.
They are 1/3 down.
Interesting, you should raise a third. So their argument is that they basically, because of the WLTP changeover in Europe, their deliveries have been staggeringly delayed, both the Q3, the A1 cars like that, but also that process occurred at the same time they were refreshing the bulk of their range. So it's a kind of double whammy. So they insist the only thing that's keeping them down is supply. They say their supply is down a third. If you added that third back
they'd
to
be
their
where
numbers,
they want to be.
They'd be about on par.
All
In fact, they say if they could get all the cars they wanted, they'd be about on average. Now, car companies are hesitant to talk about future sales for obvious reasons because it can catch them out, but Audi is very bullish about it. And I quote, by the end of the year, they will be flying.
Wow.
So they don't think they'll make up quite the
So
lost
they're doing
ground.
planes as well as cars.
Yeah, so I think they're partnering with
I mean, I've
Elon
heard
Musk.
enough about flying cars. Fair income.
So anyway, they reckon they're on the comeback. So Audi on paper looks to be a horror story, but they insist there are cool reasons behind it, and those reasons are in the process of
And
being fixed.
that's always the fundamental things that you look at, too, really. Is demand dropping off,
Yeah.
or is there some kind
That's
of supply problem? So
That's right.
obviously with Audi, that's the case.
So to give you a couple of quick case studies, the A1's a prime example. They ran that car out expecting a new one, so they did run out sales, ran out of stock, and then that new car was delayed. It was supposed to launch early this year, it's still not here. Same with Q3, supposed to launch early this year, it's still not here. So these are the things that are kind of holding them back. So watch this space with Audi.
Yeah, and I mean, Australia, it's a market of 1 million and something cars, 1.1 each year, new cars. So in the global scheme of things, we're a small player. And when you're petitioning a massive factory for production, you're not necessarily priority number one.
You have the choice of feeding Europe or feeding us. They'll feed Europe first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have either of you blokes driven the Genesis?
Have you been? On the launch of the 70 and
What's
80.
it like? What's it?
Mate, I said this in the review. I think
I should probably read it. Sorry, I apologise.
No,
I was at campsites lurking.
No. I mean, so I'm
laptop
on
with you,
record
though.
with this view. It is
to review all the images.
The 70 especially, the ride and handling balance is I think, going to be just about best in class. They have managed to strike this balance between comfort
I do remember,
and
you
composure
mentioned yesterday.
really, really well.
Okay.
Only thing that lets it down is that it feels there's a lack of sort of a wow factor in the cabin. It's got an i30 screen with i30 graphics. If you get into a C class, you feel like you're in a spaceship. If you get into a G70, you feel like you're in an expensive Hyundai. So, but it is old now too. I mean, that car was supposed to launch a year or so ago. So anyway, engineering-wise, fabulous. Great engine, great ride and handling package, etc. It's just the fit and finish stuff that it's a bit lacking, but they'll fix that.
And it's a long-term play.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a slow burn.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no worries. All right, now speaking of curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
We're always curious as to what's been in our garage during the week. So for each of you people, Chester, we'll start with you.
Sure.
What you've been...
Straight back
for
into it.
about half an hour. I mean, I love his voice, but by God,
Chester,
If you can duck out.
No, stop right there. Crafty,
Can I go? Yeah.
Crafty,
Yeah,
please
I'll
let us
dive
know
in.
what you've been steering.
It's funny that I'm talking to you, JC, because I've been in the Boss. I've been in the BT-50 Boss.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of sexed up version of the BT-50. BT-50 I'm quite fond of.
Yep.
That's a good unit. Good
Yep.
four-wheel drive.
Yep.
Nothing too spectacular, but nice and solid. Rides pretty well. That auto and engine are a pretty good combination.
So that would tend to indicate that the BT-50 as generally is more of a work type truck than having more of the lifestyle-y stuff around it?
I think so. It's not quite as refined as things like the Ranger and the Amarok, and it's pretty close.
Yep.
It rides pretty close to them, but it's not quite there, which I'm fine with.
Yep.
The Boss, apart from sort of black thrown at it on the outside and gloss black styling on the inside. There's no mechanical differences apart from the rest of the BT-50 range. It's got sort of Boss stickers down the side on the rear door, which I'm never a fan of if they're done sort of in a pretty ordinary fashion.
Sure.
I'm not real impressed with them, but some people may be, and good luck to them.
Yep.
I did receive a few dodgy looks at traffic lights.
Did you?
More than usual.
That's what I was going to say. Standard operating procedure.
Because
were you in the vehicle at the traffic lights?
I had no clothes on.
Squeegee in the bucket?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was trying to wipe someone's windscreen with an old newspaper. They didn't take kindly to me, so which I was surprised with.
Yeah.
No, but it's those sort of, and it is the word Boss on the side, sort of lower sort of third of the
It's a
door,
bit
and
cheesy,
it just
isn't it?
looks like your cousin did them with a
Right,
marker.
right.
Looks a little bit cheap to me, but again, a lot of people like that sort of styling
Okay,
thing. But
yes.
I don't think it's worth any extra bucks than what you'd pay for a normal one.
Well, it's
I'd
the
go
name
for a lower
Boss
spec
as well, isn't it?
BT-50.
I struggle with rugged,
Yeah,
and
Rugged
Boss
X,
and all of
Rugged
that
X,
stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
that's just me.
I struggle a bit with Rogue. I must
Rogue,
say.
yeah.
Too close
And
to
so,
home, mate.
Yeah.
and someone yells out "boss" and you look for your wife or something. Don't you think, oh, shh. You look around nervously.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, we did some great off-roading in it.
Yep.
And as always, the BT-50, like I said, nothing spectacular.
Is
but
the Boss
great.
pack a big ask on top of what you would otherwise be paying?
No, I'm glad you asked. Now you've put me on the spot. I'm just checking styling. I think it's it's sort of an arbitrary upping. Just bear with me. I've got it here. I'm finding out how to use a computer right
We'll
now.
just go to the.
Should have gone to Chesto first.
Your call is very important to us. We'll be with you in a moment.
The Boss has a drive-away price of almost 56 grand.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a big ask, hey. And ours had optional floor mats, which is another. It's about $140 because they knew I'd be getting in with my mucky boots. So that's a little bit over 56 grand. So
Yep.
yeah, it's not. I'd go for something. I'd go
Sure.
for a lower spec, couple
Yep.
of grand cheaper.
Yep.
Same sort of gear. I mean, no, like I said, no mechanical difference. And as is in standard form, which I say in my review, head to carsguide.com.au.
Hey.
It's no spoilers here, but in standard form, the BT-50 is a
Gotcha.
pretty good thing. So
Gotcha.
it doesn't
Okay.
need the stickers.
That's clear. Very
Yeah.
good. Now, Chesto, we will come to your good self.
Okay. So
Thank you very much, Crafty.
No worries.
I have spent some time this week in the Cooper S, Mini Cooper S, specifically the 60th anniversary edition.
Nice. Yeah.
And I got to say, it is very, very cool. In fact, painfully cool, as Mini Coopers have always been. But
Righto.
I don't know if I'm just getting older, but the painfully part of that sentence really stood out to me this week because the ride, it just felt too hard, too brittle for my sort of daily urban commute. It was the kind of thing that I know I'd get tired of very, very quickly. And also, readers of our long-term reviews will know that I have a little four-legged child that I cart around with me.
Yep.
And so it was a three-door, of course, and just even lifting my very light dog into the back seat was
Yes.
like, oh, this is brutal. The thought of doing that with a kid or something
Yeah.
is
Okay.
just off.
And
off
this
the
wasn't
table.
a John Cooper Works or anything.
No, just
it's
the
your
Cooper S.
Cooper S.
Cooper
Yep.
S, yep,
Okay.
yep. So basically, the idea is that the Cooper S is actually fairly well equipped anyway, but it adds about $4,000 to the purchase price. I think from memory, it's $43,900, $44,000, something like that.
Okay.
But it does add cool stuff. So like you get the British Racing Green, which of course the colour it has to be, bonnet stripes,
Yep.
the rear brake lights, sort of
Arena Union flag?
jack,
Yeah,
gotcha.
which is pretty
Okay,
cool.
wow.
You get the puddle lights. So basically, you get everything you could ever possibly want. There's no options to tick on it.
Did the dog leave any puddles?
Yeah, little
Or just the puddle lights?
We'll talk about that many expected email. But it is, I mean, look, it is still a super cool car, super fun. I love that little punchy engine. That tired old saying about it feeling like it's on rails is
Yes.
still true.
Yes.
The only downside is when you're not driving it quickly, it's a lot of practicality to sacrifice. It's a lot of comfort to sacrifice. It's a young person / couple's car.
Yes.
I feel like I'm probably out the other side of it.
It feels like Mini's an interesting case study because it came out of the blocks sub-zero cool,
awesome.
everybody wanted one.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, it seemed to fall into BMW syndrome where let's make lots of different derivatives and we can sell more and more of them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really that kind of car. And I think whoever in BMW has sort of realised that, reeled it back a bit, and it's been made fresh and kept that really cool vibe right to this day.
Do you remember that Mini? Was it the Mini Coupe? Did they call it with the backwards baseball
and
cap
the
styling? Do you
soft top
remember
version
that?
as well?
Yeah. So they were.
I went to the
Probably
launch of
mistakes.
that car in Germany. I remember
probably,
talking to the person I was driving with, going, "What is this car for?"
Yeah.
Really
Who is
trying to
it for?
find
Yeah.
what's the purpose of it. So
yeah.
I think that was the zenith of that whole we've gone too far.
Embrace
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I think the Fiat is a prime example of that. That Fiat 500 is effortlessly cool. Like it's not. I mean, dynamically, it's not a patch on the Mini Cooper, but style-wise, it's
Same
got
deal.
that same cool, cutesy, fun factor about it.
Yeah.
But as soon as they started trying to expand that car into other ranges, the 500X, etc., the 500L. doesn't work quite so well.
It doesn't.
Stick with what you know. Keep that
You
core
start
feeling
watering
strong,
down the
you know?
spirit of the car, don't you?
Stick to your knitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe.
Do they still move a lot of these things? Like, do they sell a lot of?
Yeah, I think so.
Still
Mate,
see a few
the five-
around. And
in Europe, especially, I think the 500 is the best-selling car in
Wow.
a micro car. That is.
yeah,
in
but
a
for
ton of
there it
European
makes
countries.
sense because I mean parking surely
Exactly.
is
The only-
tough.
yeah,
but over
exactly.
here, I mean, do
The
they
only
make
thing to
sense?
say though
Like,
is when you put a modern 500 next to its, ancestor,
yeah.
it looks like a giant.
Yeah,
It looks like
yeah,
it's next
yeah.
to a dinky
they do,
toy.
They
you
do
know?
like a jacked up sort of
I
version.
might get the number wrong here, JC. You might remember Crafty, but I think when they relaunched the 500 here, it was a time when Australian dollar was quite strong, and it was 14 grand drive away, I think,
Wow.
for the pop.
Okay.
I'm sure 14k
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
around that
dunno.
number.
Yeah.
Mate, they couldn't make them fast enough.
Yeah.
They were
Yes.
flying
Yeah.
out the
Yes.
door. That's
Yeah.
that's a great price for
Yeah,
that car.
yeah.
Now
All right.
I think it's slowed down.
Well, I'll round out the garage before we draw the shutter down on a Panamera, a Porsche Panamera. Specifically the GTS and a Sport Turismo. So the Sport Turismo is the wagon version. And I got to say, I find it, subjective call as always, a very handsome looking vehicle. And in fact, the first Panamera suffered from the then CEO of Porsche demanding that his height should be accommodated in the back of it.
Yeah.
He's quite a lanky guy. And as a consequence, it had like the hunchback, Quasimodo hunchback
Yeah.
across the back
Yeah,
of the roof.
yeah,
Suffered
yeah.
from
This
that.
thing is
Easily unattractive.
roof
This car now
seal.
looks like an extended 911.
Yeah.
It's got that Porsche 911 bits and pieces here that make you more excited about just walking towards it and getting in the car.
Yeah.
It's $371,000.
Yes, a bargain.
So it's a lot of money, and that's before you put it on the road.
Chesto's got that in his
Yeah,
back
yeah, that's
pocket
why I
right
like
now.
Charlie.
You're really in the territory of an Aston Martin Rapide,
Yeah.
a Bentley Flying Spur,
Yep.
a Merc AMG S63, the big money cars. It's 338 kilowatts, 620 newton meters.
Yeah.
0 to 100k in just a bit above 4 seconds. So it's sort of supercar fast.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
one seats 5.
Yeah,
Typically,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Panamera is a 4-seater. This one's got a little occasional seat in the back. It's the short straw
For the
kind of seat.
person you hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's more like a 911 in looks and dynamics than the Panamera's ever been.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a twin turbo 4-litre V8, which seems to be flavour of the month in Germany.
Yeah.
The
True.
twin
They
turbo
just got
V8.
a few too extra over there. They're trying to get rid of.
But the Panamera used to be like, kind of what is this? Is
Yeah.
this a limo? Is it a Porsche?
Yeah.
There's no doubt now. This GTS, it's a sporting 5-seat
Yeah.
Grand Tourer.
Yeah.
It's a GT.
It was always devastatingly competent. Let down a bit by the fact that, as you say, it looked like Quasimodo on a bad day.
Yeah.
So now if it looks the goods as well, it's a
and
it's a handy
drives,
thing.
yeah.
So it's for people who are ready to shell out that kind of money, because really next step from there you're up into roller territory and whatever. So it's that halfway house towards the stratosphere. So lots of money, but what you do get is tremendous amount of features, lots of safety, and a really engaging car to drive. So
One quick question. Well, when do you think you lost touch with the common man?
that's right.
He got in before me. I was going to say,
no.
what is it with you and posh cars?
I'm still
JC?
right there. I'm
He
in a
won't,
room with you, bloke. For a
yeah, that's
start.
a good point.
I
Very
heard a
small room
rumour
too.
that you won't climb into anything unless it's over 350k. So,
Now, speaking about being out of touch, it's time for MuskWatch.
Musky.
Right, so let's get into it. First of all, SpaceX. SpaceX has nailed its second Falcon 9 fairing catch ever. So this is when the rocket takes off. There are a couple of fairings that peel off the thing that in times past would have just been, I don't know, they go glug, glug, glug to the bottom of the ocean or whatever. So SpaceX has got a system where they catch them out in the ocean. It's a boat.
Yep.
It used to be called Mr. Stephen. The boat was called
Okay.
Mr. Stephen.
Was it, was it?
It's now called Ms. Tree. Okay.
Yeah,
Jeez,
yeah,
come
yeah.
on.
Got to be zany.
Come on. Yeah.
So they catch it, and they're able to kind of coordinate a parachute on these
Yeah,
fairings, and
yeah.
they catch it in the net. Saves a lot of money, and ultimately
For sure.
it'll be reusable. So Musk tweeted, "Rocket fairing falling from space, higher res." So people had demanded that he put up a
Yeah.
different video
Shot
of a
it,
higher
yeah.
res one,
Oh.
and in response, Dodge Ram owner randomly tweeted back a picture of his Dodge Ram. Battling an angel, medium res. To
Only
which
medium res.
Brady responded, "Nature is wild, bro." Just if you watch the response chain on some of Elon Musk's
They're
tweets,
great.
it's fantastic. Also, listeners and readers listeners and viewers, beg your pardon,
Yeah.
might remember that Elon Musk famously said that anyone searching for autonomy in cars using LiDAR was just on a losing path.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
not the way to go.
Yeah.
Elon said at Tesla's April autonomy event that anyone relying on LiDAR is doomed. Now, the experts are saying maybe not, and this is courtesy of ARS Technica, so hat tip to them. LiDAR, which I understand stands for Light Detection and Ranging, uses lasers to build a three-dimensional map of things, so what the car is seeing ahead of it. And LiDAR is currently expensive, and Tesla says it's just a crutch. Waymo's using it, for example. So it's a competitive technology. Theory is that Tesla's used cameras so it could get driving assistance tech into the field quickly, so it could get ahead of the curve in capturing real-world data for AI-type learning. You know, so they've got all of this real-world stuff. But the Cornell University has issued a paper, so Boffins at Cornell have issued a paper
Too much
saying
spare
that
time.
what we showed in our paper is you could close the gap significantly towards autonomy by converting camera-based data into LiDAR-style point cloud type data. So really what they're saying is it's probably best as a combination of the two.
Absolutely.
So as always, I think Elon sees things very much black and white. It's you're with us or you're against us, but it seems as though there could be a possibility of using both down the track. So we'll see where that goes.
So it is LiDAR that adds the bulk of the cost to an autonomous vehicle at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There's another podcast, which I don't know if I'll name, that does
No, please don't.
How about those swans, eh?
yeah, correct. That really drilled down on this issue for over an hour, and they pretty much reached the same conclusion that the best combination is sort of cameras, which I guess in a lot of ways mimic a human eye, and LiDAR that does the things that a human eye can't. So.
Oh, no matter which way it goes, it's still proving immensely difficult. So we all, like all of us, will see how it progresses. Now, the last little Muskism is a return to a theme that Elon has visited occasionally. Hats off to Peter Pixel, who Elon Musk is blocking people who say photographers should be credited after images that he's put up on Twitter. Okay, so a photographer called Richard Angle took a shot of the SpaceX launch pad from a bus, and there were thunderclouds and actually a lightning strike hitting the ground in the background. Spectacular shot. Quite a wide-angle photograph. So Elon just grabbed it and tweeted it to his 27 million followers with the text, "Ride the lightning." So he called it Ride the Lightning. Fantastic.
But he never credited it.
No, the photo's gotten over 1,000 comments, 6,000 retweets, and 70,000 likes. Okay, so various ones came out and said, you should credit the photographer, to which you see the box underneath saying, Elon Musk has blocked you.
User block.
Yes. Others were saying, look, an @ from Elon Musk is worth likes and tweet
100%.
impressions, to which Angle said, there have been over 900,000 impressions, probably almost 1 million by now. You think I sold any prints? Nope.
100%.
So others mentioning the engineers and others at SpaceX that weren't credited, think of all the work they put in. I'd say that's a totally different kettle of fish.
They're being paid, though, those people.
Absolutely.
Of course they
employees.
are. So the history part being that there was Edwards Art had a thing called Farting Unicorn, which Elon liked the look of. He not only put it on Twitter, he put it into the cars. He made it available in screens in Tesla cars without any credit or payment.
And no payment.
So it's happened before. Overnight update, Musk has deleted the photo at the centre of the controversy and blocked Angle on Twitter.
But see, that's a potentially life-changing moment for a photographer on a bus to have snap an
absolutely.
amazing photo and have Elon Musk tweet it out and say, look how great James is.
And here it is. This is who did it.
That could set your career, make your career.
Absolutely. So anyway... Sorry.
No, I was just about to say, do you think that's sort of indicative of this age in which we live, where people curate other people's creativity, but they don't credit it?
Like think about Pinterest. Think about a platform like Pinterest. That's really
and that
what
really
it's
gets
all about.
my goat, but that's for another podcast.
Yeah. I know that
people
goat.
use it. He's a bastard.
He is a bastard.
Is he still in therapy?
Now the share price is sitting at Tesla share price. $238.30. That's down from $241. So it still continues to hover in this band of around $230, $250, something like that, which is not where it should be. It should be a lot higher. So despite a lot of bluff and bluster around results and production numbers and whatever, it continues to sit there, and it's really the acid test. So we'll continue to watch that
absolutely
week to week. And with that, I think we have reached the finish line.
Wow.
Thank you, Crafty.
Oh, no problem.
And thank you, Chester.
Thank you, Jason.
Can I go back to
Top
lurking
job.
now?
Top job. And speaking of top jobs, thanks to Mr. Pritchard for his care and attention in producing the show.
Thank you, Pritch.
Please tell others about the tools and let us know your thoughts by searching for Cars Guide on Facebook and Instagram using the hashtag CGPodcast, or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au.
Just really quickly, JC, I just want to compliment Pritchard on his mankini, and he wears it so well.
He does.
I think he's down to like 2% body fat now. It's pretty impressive.
That's why he's so cold in here.
I think
He's got the dressing gown on. And remember, you can watch us on iTunes, on YouTube. If you're an iTunes listener, please rate and review us as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Until next week, a farmer mate of mine found a Land Rover buried in one of his paddocks. It was a nice discovery.
Oh, jeez. And there was a puddle of oil nearby.
Thank you all.
Hooroo.